Suit up, strap in, warm the tires, and leave on yellow. Time for the MitsuTimes podcast, presented by MitsuTimes.org, the home of the fastest Mitsubishi cars. With your host, Josh.
What's up, guys? It's Josh with MitsuTimes. I'm here with Justin Novick from 3SX. He's our special guest today. We're going to talk a little bit about 3SX. Welcome to the show, Justin. Thanks for coming on.
All right on, Josh. Thanks a lot for having me.
Absolutely. So first off, I want to say thank you for your sponsorship to the website. You guys have been one of the first ones, and I don't think the website would be where it is now without you guys. So I really appreciate your partnership.
We're glad to do it, man. We appreciate what you're doing to try to keep everything alive and in the forefront.
Thank you. So let's start off with the origin of 3SX. How did it start? When did it start?
Late 98, early 99, the owner, Steve Burrows, and one of his cohorts, Eric Bowden, they were really into the cars from an enthusiast standpoint, and they started realizing that the cars had a few flaws when they came out, which kind of parlays over into a few of the things that we really first got known for were the adjustable control arms and then our engine mounts. A lot of guys were doing some bolt-ons and, finding the weak links of those cars really, really quickly. And Steve and Eric pretty much started in Steve's driveway.
Oh, wow.
Working on cars for other people, and it just kind of turned it into a small shop, which moved, I think, 3 or 4 locations before we ended up in the building that we're in right now.
Okay. So besides the adjustable control arms and the motor mounts, what other products is 3SX best known for? Because I know when I'm on the 3S Facebook groups, I'm always seeing 3SX products. So what would you say is your top sellers?
Right now, our top sellers, we sell an absolute boatload of, third-gen lifters. We're not the only ones out there, but I know everybody loves them, and they love our tool that we sell along with it. And a lot of our little custom touch and 3SX branded stuff. So we sell the spark plug cover inserts, some of the beautification kits for under hood. Chrome oil caps are pretty big. People like our stainless Y pipes. And we've got a few more things that we're kind of either bringing back from the dead or revamping to keep the 3SX stuff really prominent going forward.
Yeah, I think the Y pipes. I think people don't realize how much the stock Y pipe kind of takes away from the aesthetic of the twin turbo engine setup, and the chrome Y pipe really adds a whole lot.
Oh, absolutely. And ours being stainless, I think, gives it a leg up over some of the aluminum pipes out there.
Yep.
So it seems to have a little bit more longevity and
strength. A lot less
too.
Corrosion. Yep.
Absolutely.
So, we talked about the from the enthusiast standpoint. Is that why 3SX is solely focused on the 3S platform?
I believe so. Those guys seemed to find a niche that made them really happy, and it was pretty successful early on. So they just kind of ran with it. You find a formula that works, and you try to do it as long as you can, as large as you can.
Yeah.
We've still got an absolute fleet of cars around here. Steve probably owns, I think, 12 or 13.
Oh, wow.
Between the 3000s. So he's still very much involved. I know Eric's still, even though he's not with 3SX anymore, he's still got his built NA car that people really knew him for, and he's still very much involved. He'll hop on the forums every now and then. So those guys, may not be sight and seen as far as the advertising stuff or, answering the phone nearly as much as the rest of us, but they're still there.
Okay. So the shop cars that 3SX is really known for, are those cars still around?
We still have the race cars, yeah, the T2 and T4. They've still got the same livery that everybody remembers them from being.
Nice.
They're halfway through restorations on both right now, and we want to try to get those up and running and do some show-off events, maybe some grudge matches later on this year.
Awesome. Now, I think I speak for everyone when I say, I would love to see those cars return.
Oh, me too. Everything that I've heard about these cars and seen videos in the past, they were just absolutely rowdy.
Yeah.
And kind of ahead of their time. By modern race car standards, they might not be the most advanced thing out there, but I still get a kick, pulling the Lexan hatch on T4 and looking down and seeing 4 old school Walbro 255 pumps in there. When now you could probably just drop a Walbro Hellcat or something brushless and just really feed those hogs.
What does the future of 3SX look like?
Right now, we need to focus on bringing back a lot of parts that are going in LA and discontinued. That's, we don't want the cars to have these fatal flaws, which we ran into a couple years ago when the 5 and 6 speed all-wheel drive input shaft bearings went. We worked with a few other vendors to try to get those relaunched, because once that goes down, I mean, there's only so many parts, transmissions out there, and once these guys lose that, they can't drive the car, so the whole car goes down completely for a $500 bearing. So that's our focus, is bringing back stuff that's going away that people are wanting. There's a few other vendors that have created some really cool aftermarket trim pieces that seem to be selling like hotcakes, and we've tried to play around with that, and we've got a couple 3D printers in the shop, and we're just trying to breathe as much life back into these cars as we can, especially since they're getting popular.
Yeah, exactly.
These JDMs are just going berserk right now.
That's what I was going to say, is that the price, especially of the VR4s lately, seems like has shot up tenfold. So I think you'll see people who have had a project in the garage or in their shop or whatever, that now they're going to take the opportunity to bring it back to life.
Absolutely. I think we've seen a lot of guys that as they get older, these are the cars that everybody wanted back in high school. And now that they've got like a real job or something like that, they got a few bucks in their pocket, they want to go back and go, I need to have my VR4. And it adds it's this whole second wind of enthusiasm, which is killer, and a degree of difficulty for a lot of guys. They find that VR4 they've always wanted for $5,000-$6,000, and either some of the stuff's not available or there's a huge lead time, and it's hard for us to see the enthusiasm get kind of lightened by the fact that they can't get the parts.
Yeah, exactly. Especially small stuff like gaskets or whatever. Heartbreaking to me is to see a whole build or a whole restoration hung up on something so small.
Oh yeah, or bolts. I have guys they're waiting on silly little bolts that you wouldn't think, and we try to track them down aftermarket, and then I'm running into supply issues with my aftermarket vendors. The dual cam timing tensioner bracket, or the timing pulley bracket, its mounting bolt, and a few lower like timing cover bolts and oil pan bolts are special order from Japan, but they're pending becoming obsolete.
Oh.
And to find a perfect matched aftermarket solution is hard, because they may not have the right shank, they might not have the right head size. And if we're going to send something aftermarket, I don't want it to be garbage.
Right.
The last thing I want to do out there is to, taint the name by selling some cheap stuff.
Especially when it comes to timing components.
Oh, totally.
So after all these years, what is it about 3SX that keeps 3SX on top of the aftermarket support for the 3S platform? When you see in the Facebook groups, when you see people looking for parts, they're always referencing 3SX parts or links to 3SX website. Why is that?
Luckily, I think that Steve and Eric did such a good job laying such a strong foundation for these cars and the market back then that they were, everywhere you look, they were there. With the race cars, at the events, a bunch of advertising. We dug up the old TV commercial. I think I rehosted that on the website so guys can go back and check it out. And then we still have, a bunch of enthusiasts working in the shop right now. So everybody loves anything automotive. We like to see the cars around. We like selling the car parts. But just keeping the brand recognition alive. We try to be there as much as possible and answer the phone when people call. And sometimes they just want to tell us a story of how their car came to them or why it means so much to them. And that every time they'll go to the junkyard at this point and see something that's got 3SX on it somewhere.
Yeah.
So being around for now 3 years, you're just bound to come across something with our logo stuck to it, and I think that's just incredibly cool.
Yeah, you were talking about brand recognition. You see shops nowadays, they might do a sale like on Black Friday or what have you, but you see 3SX posting every single week, hey, we got these items, and it's on Instagram and Facebook. I think you guys do such a great job with that, and it seems to be the key to success here lately.
Oh, I appreciate that. Our holiday sales were the 25 days of Christmas last year. I had hours upon hours in that advent calendar, and even some guys were sending me emails like, please don't email me every day. So, hey, man, it's a sale. There's a new item. If you don't like it, you can unfollow me, but at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure you do like it, and you'll still buy something.
Absolutely, yeah.
Can.
Yeah, or the 3SX name comes to mind when it comes time to buy that part.
Totally, which is what we hope for. I mean, I want to stay here as long as possible, and we want to be in the market, where there's a few but very proud bunch of guys, including other vendors, that you've got to be dedicated because of the way things move so quickly. If you don't keep trying and pushing, you'll get forgotten about pretty easily.
Yeah, exactly. So what's your background with Mitsubishi cars?
Well, before 3SX, the last time I ran into a bunch of Mitsus was going to be back in high school. I had a couple buddies that were hardcore DSM guys that grown up in Northern California. And come late 99, before we were getting ready to graduate, a buddy of mine bought a really nice 93 VR4. And we had traveled all over the state. I mean, he and I were going every other weekend. We're driving 2-3 hours each direction trying to find the right car. We got into some really shady places looking for this stuff. But he ended up buying an absolute gorgeous car and had a decent job. So he spent the next 2-3 years building that thing up like crazy. And I think he sold the thing probably in 04, 05, and it was making 600 wheel, which is actually quite a feat in California considering all the restrictions they have on performance cars out there. But it had a ton of boss speed parts on it. There were some Bomex Aero pieces on there. Had some really nice TE37s. Like it was a stout car. I mean, even by modern builds. And it was pretty happy. And he's moved on to something else. But every now and then I'll shoot him a message. I'm like, man, you have any pictures of your VR4? And it blows his mind that I've come full circle. 20 years later, running the company that supplied a bunch of stuff for his VR4 back in 2000.
Yeah. So if you ran across the pristine VR4 or Stealth RT twin turbo, what would your dream build look like?
Man, I got a really hardcore love affair for the Pearl White cars. If I could find a 94, 95 VR4 or even a Stealth, because I've really come around on the pop-up front-end cars.
Yeah.
And do some body part changing. If I were to go with a pop-up, it'd be a 92, 93 RTTT, maybe even like a Miami Vice car, white on red leather, do a late model rear bumper on it, and just full bolt-ons, and just build it to right. What I think is the happy part of those cars is they really enjoy being at that 450 like wheel horse mark. You get some nice pistons, rods, and some executioners, and a full exhaust system. Probably a chrome as far as tuning, or get something else that would do the job, or even a MAF-T, and just enjoy the car. Don't overbuild it to where you can't drive it.
Yeah.
Just get it to where you can take it out there. It's going to fire up on you. It's going to run. You can beat the pants off of it as long as you don't launch it too hard and turn that transfer case into glass. You'd be good to go.
So if there's someone out there right now, they just bought a 3000 GT base or SL, what advice would you give them for their build?
Well, it depends on, because I get this call at least twice a day.
Yeah.
I even put up a little how-to sheet on like stages or what we recommend as far as things that go together on the site. But it all depends on what they really want to do. And a lot of guys, everyone's so eager to get the most out of their car. And we sell some pretty cool upgrades for the NA cars just to free up some power or make a little bit of noise so you feel like you're going fast, because sometimes the seat of the pants dyno matters almost as much as the actual dyno rollers. Yeah. So we sell quite a few things that can really wake up an NA car, and I've got a kid coming in right now who's local that he's 3 people away from having one of the owner's old cars. It's an Amethyst 96, and he's come in slowly, got our headers, got our cat back, got an intake on it, and I think he's just kind of doing a textbook build, get you a lightweight flywheel, get the car to breathe a little bit better and make some noise so you can have fun driving it.
Awesome.
Now, he's building a 6072 turbo that he'll eventually drop in there, and then he'll get a turbo trans down the road, but he's doing what he can while he can, because he's just like he's a parts cleaner at an engine shop up the road. So we see him every 2 weeks pretty much on the dot, sell him something, show him around, give him a sticker and a high five, and tell him to come back when he wants to hang out.
And I think that's great advice, because I think you see on Facebook too many times someone just bought a base, or they just bought a SL, or they just bought a Stealth ES, and their first question is, how do I turn it into a VR4?
Well, we do have a write-up on the site for that too, but it's really involved. We want to make sure everybody knows what they're getting into as far as time and money.
Yeah.
So that they don't get their feelings hurt, or they don't make the mistake of taking everything apart and realizing they can't get it all back together.
Yeah, and I think that's why you see a lot of either base or SL part outs when they have a twin turbo motor sitting on a stand is they got into it too deep and we're like, oh, okay, I got to cut my losses now.
Yeah, we had one dropped off on Friday that was the same thing. Guy had a 94 SL, pulled it down, bought a 4-bolt swap or a 4-bolt main Gen 2 motor and a 6-speed, and the 6-speed was crunchy, and he took it apart and did some shift forks and hung the rear end, and next thing you know, he's like, I got to move out of state, and he ended up in just like in a bad way. And he's, calling me, I don't want to scrap this thing. Can you guys come look at it? And it's like, we had to drag the thing onto a flatbed. It didn't even have wheels and tires on it. So it wasn't the greatest move, but I mean, it saved another one from going to the scrapper, and the car's got good rear quarters and a rear chunk in it. So we can turn it into an all-wheel drive car, or maybe pass it on to someone from the Northeast who's got a rock box and they need to breathe some life back into theirs.
Awesome. I love to hear those stories. Instead of it just going and getting crushed and now none of the parts are usable.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of guys out there doing part outs, and some of the more known guys like Aaron, I mean, he's doing such a good job parting out, and he's got some really killer prices. So I know that the guys love to get stuff from him and keep them going, which is, interesting that he gets such these built up cars that people pull the eject button on. It's like, well, you wonder what happened. It's
right.
Such a beautiful build, and they just kind of pull the ripcord. You hate to see it. I mean, I had a 93 VR that was so overbuilt that it actually wasn't the most pleasurable for me either. And I eventually got rid of it, but it's still in the community. It's up in the Northeast.
This episode of the MitsuTimes podcast is brought to you by Alpha Injection Clinic. They offer 6 different sizes of injectors for Mitsubishi platforms, from 1000cc all the way up to 2600cc, as well as DSM Evo resistor pack delete plug. They also sell injector pigtails and plug-and-play adapters. Alpha Injection Clinic is your partner when it comes to upgrading your fuel injectors. Check out all their products at alphainjection.com. So what about somebody who just bought a stock VR4 RTTT? I know we talked about, or you just talked about, not overbuilding it right away. I think that if someone just got into these cars and they don't know a whole lot about them, they have to be aware the fact that parts are getting harder and harder to find. But what other advice would you give someone?
No, you're absolutely right. Parts availability is one concern, but maintenance. A lot of guys, they see a VR4 that someone's had for a lot of years, or they got a good deal on something with relatively low miles, but just hammer away on maintenance. Take a look at those brake lines. Take a look at those motor mounts. Any car that sits forever that's got a bunch of rubber parts that get age on them, you want to make sure that stuff's replaced before you take it for a drive. Otherwise, you'll pull the car back in, you're leaking oil and fuel, and your mounts are shaking and your struts are blown. The thing with a fine-tooth comb and get it running well. I mean, even in stock trim, it's got a decent good bit of power. With a good clutch and a good timing belt and tensioner, you can have a lot of fun with a VR. Do some basic upgrades, downpipe and full exhaust. It'll make the right noises.
It'll do everything you want it to do, too. I feel like you see a lot of, I just bought this VR4 that's been sitting in a barn for 7 years. I'm going to turn it into my daily driver.
Which can be done, but focus on the needs first and not the wants.
Right.
Like I said, maintenance is absolutely crucial. They're not lightweight cars. Make sure the brakes are right. The mounts are good, so you don't have any forced issues with the transmissions, because if the mounts are bad enough, you're going to have issues shifting it, and you tend to shift fork or break something off or mess up a detent because you're trying to ham fist around something. You just cost yourself a whole lot more than you had to.
Yeah. Or if you go straight to trying to throw some 16 Gs on it when the timing belt's never been replaced. I mean, that's a lot of stuff you see in the DSM world too, though.
Oh, sure. I mean, interference motors are the worst thing that can happen to enthusiasts who haven't paid attention to maintenance before. I mean, I came from the Honda world before this, and no shortage of guys out there just ventilating pistons because they dropped the timing belt.
So if I'm in the market for a 3S right now, I know the market is super high. Maybe this is going to be an investment, or maybe I'm looking for a car that I'm going to turn into a daily driver. What kind of things do I need to look for?
On the cars right now, it might cost a few more bucks up front, but buy the nicest example you can get your hands on. That'll save you a lot of heartache down the road, especially if you can find a garage car that's not going to be sunburnt as far as the tops of the door panels, on the rear hatch, any of the trim, stuff that might cost you a small mint to get back on the car in perfect shape. If you can buy right out the bat, it just saves you a lot of headaches.
Yeah.
The cars are so phenomenal looking that if you just want something that's great and is fun driving around, then maybe a non-turbo is a great way to go. To the other side of that, if you want to build something absolutely nasty, maybe find an automatic. That way, it hasn't been pounded on too hard. And, the auto is going to be kind of a weak link anyway. So if you were to pull that thing out and do a big build later on, that's a good avenue to go down.
So what about, what are 3SX's goals for 2022?
22, we want to keep developing, new products or bringing back dead products as much as possible. Right now, that's a little bit harder than normal with the supply issues that we're all having, but
Yeah.
we're not the only ones in the boat. I mean, we've got some suppliers just trying to do what they can. I've got pistons out 8 to 10 weeks. ARP head studs are going to be somewhere around May. It's bad news for big builds, but we're trying to work around it and opening up more doors whenever we can for other vendors to supply us so we can keep the customers happy. Nothing's worse than waiting on the parts when you spent $1,000 on parts in, say, November, and here it is February, and you're calling going, "Are you guys going to ship my stuff?" And I said, "Dude, I would love to if I can get it."
Yeah.
So we want to do that. We want to get to where we can stock more stuff and have more options, I guess, for our customers before the end of the year. And we want to breathe some life back into the cars, the race cars like you and I talked about earlier. We'd like to see both those up on the road. Even if we just take them out to like cars and coffee events or, weeknight cruise-ins or something like that, because there's a lot of the older guys that still love seeing these things, especially stealths for some reason.
So, on that topic, are there any events that 3SX plans to attend in 2022 that maybe someone local to the Carolinas or, someone could drive up and meet you guys in person?
Oh, absolutely. I know we want to revamp want to clean the shop out, get our dyno up and going again so we can do the, twice a year dyno days that we used to host, which were a lot of fun. Guys would bring all sorts of stuff into the shop and just run it, run what you brung type deals and hang out, hit the food trucks and just kind of, talk shop with a bunch of car guys all day, which is great. Nothing better on a good weather Saturday. And I know the boss man wants us to get back into where we used to have like a Charlotte area, 3S or Carolinas 3S meetup, in addition to the Blue Ridge Gathering, which is still pretty big. I know quite a few guys come down from Virginia in the Northeast for that Blue Ridge, and it's a nice area up there on the tail of the dragon.
Yeah.
So we definitely need to get our presence back up there, even if we got to do a little work on the our little mini school bus and get the hot dog machine fired up so we can come up there and have some fun.
That would be amazing. I would love to fly down there and check out the Dyno Open House event. I mean, just to see some of these cars in action, I think would be just an amazing experience.
Yeah, we get a good turnout for those. We had quite a few guys in the service that would come from the other part of the state or up from Georgia and down from Virginia to run their cars. I mean, we've got a kind of a heartbreaker dyno. It's going to give you real power. It's not going to be bragging rights like a Dynojet 248, but it does the job. I'll give you a real printout that'll tell you what you got. So it's fun to see that. We've had some guys, came down last time. There was a 1,000 horse Cadillac and a R33, GTST that showed up, and just watching everybody just kind of smile as someone else drove by. That's why I got into cars in the first place.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
I put out on Instagram, Facebook, opportunities to ask you some questions. We already went over the future plans for the drag cars, but some people were looking for, I guess, a little bit of a breakdown of the front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive cars. I know it's very extensive, somewhere where they can go and look at it online.
Yeah, on our homepage, under the fun stuff or about us, like on the company, it'll scroll down, and we have a pretty good timeline of events and times that we used to run with the all-wheel drive cars, and some really nice burnout pictures of when we were running the front-wheel drive green car, which is probably my favorite car in the shop. It looks so goofy and cool because it's got big fat slicks on just the front sticking off the side with some old weld hot rod wheels.
Yeah, I love that front-wheel drive.
Oh, it's manic. I would love to get that car going, especially with the wheelie bar in the back, just to watch everyone kind of shake their heads at it. But, a lot of that was, off-the-shelf 3SX stuff. They're running our rods, our pistons. The T4 was running powder rods instead of the 3SX rods, but they've got our Stage 3 heads on there. We didn't do the head lift on that stuff. I know people swear by it. I guess our guys at the time were going to hard fast against it. But, that's all stuff you can get through our site. With a little bit of tuning, some good fuel, some patience, you can make a pretty nasty car, and those setups are definitely attainable. We held some records back in the day, and the market's changed so hard now with the tuning out there, and the electronics are just phenomenal what you can do with a street car.
And if anyone's local to the Carolinas, they can come to you for the tune, right?
At the moment, we're not taking any service things. I can definitely point people in the right direction.
Okay.
But we work with everybody in the business right now. A lot of shops are going back and forth. We're still trying to stay in touch with all the other guys. Hans and then Evan, all them. We may not always agree on certain things, but we always lean on each other. And I think it's still pretty cool that the community's small enough that no one's going to really throw daggers at anyone else. They just want to keep it alive. Otherwise, the cars die without support.
On that subject, I didn't even realize how small the 3S community was, or how, I guess, deep the roots run until Chris's passing. And then you've seen, there's so many people out there with their profile pic is still the Ninja from his logo, and that's when you realize, oh wow, this is really a brotherhood right here.
Absolutely, there was so much support for Chris after his passing, unfortunately, and it ties into us because he spent a good long while with us at 3SX. He was part of our team, so it's hard to not think about one and the other. And I wish I would have met him. I think I came on board a few years after he had left us, and never really had the chance to meet him. But I mean, he was definitely deep in the community, and a lot of people had a ton of love and support for him. And it's really good to see that they're still putting up for it. Yeah,
definitely. So is there anyone that you want to give a shout out to that's, really helped 3SX become what it is today?
So I actually kind of want to thank the guys that talk crap about us all the time because, frankly, I mean, they're keeping our brand still in the limelight. A lot of guys, we have a lot of really loyal customers, and we have a lot of guys who just enjoy throwing stones, which at the same time, I appreciate everyone. It doesn't matter. If you want to support me, great. If you don't, that's fine too. But we've got, I've got some regular customers, guys that we work with 2As, guys like David Manella, Arif. We've got a couple of Nathans here in the Carolinas that are very loyal guys to us. Even guys like Hans, he's helped us out in the past, and we've traded parts back and forth and traded customers back and forth. And like I said, if it wasn't for them, and us pitching in, it's just, it kind of is a team effort. We're in it to keep it alive. We're also a business. I got to make a few bucks, but at the same time, we need to provide the parts so the cars don't go away.
Right. Well, Justin, I really appreciate you taking your time out of your day. I know you're a busy man, and coming on here and telling us about 3SX, and anybody listening out there, you just bought a 3S and you don't know anything about it or where to get the parts, or you're searching eBay, Amazon, stop what you're doing. Go to 3sx.com. They have everything that you would ever need, and if not, you just hit them up and they'll find it for you.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate it. And, if they want to give us a call or shoot me an email or Facebook or chat, there's a good chance I'm going to answer the phone. And if not, someone else is going to get it. And we're going to try to help you however we can.
Awesome. Well, Justin, thanks again. And I wish you the best of luck, man. I appreciate it.
Likewise, Josh. Keep up the good work, man.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to the MitsuTimes podcast. Check out our Instagram and Facebook for daily updates. Get added to our list by going to MitsuTimes.org and clicking Submit a Slip. Thank you to all of our sponsors.